Hey COMM students, Dr. Sloan here. I wanted to talk about your week 2 designs and your upcoming week 3 designs. So for week 2, you submitted a brochure redesign and you also created professional letterhead and a business card. As of 10 minutes ago, everything that you have submitted for week 2 has been graded, and I strive to give you visual feedback as well as written or kind of verbal feedback. So for everything that you submitted, if you submitted as a PDF, I was able to make all of the marks using a mouse. So I didn't actually hand draw, but computer draw alignment marks, or I kind of would circle or identify trap space, things like that. So you'll see actual marks embedded in Blackboard, or if you didn't remember to submit your work as a PDF, then what I did was I would open your publisher file or your JPEG file, and then I would create a what is it called? A snip of your work, and then I would use the snipping tool and kind of create computer drawn comments that way. So whether it's embedded in Blackboard or attached within the comments of Blackboard, you'll visually see what I'm trying to communicate to you in terms of alignment or trap space or relocating information, things like that. So please look over all of your graded week 2 design submissions, because really week 2 was your first time to design and try to be visually persuasive in this class. And so all of the feedback is your first time to learn about your strengths and what you're doing well and what you're seeing in your design. And week 2 is also going to be your first opportunity to learn what you've missed, what you didn't see when you were designing, or what PARC principle you didn't embrace or apply well. So hopefully the visual feedback connected with the written feedback really helps you in terms of understanding PARC principles better, and will inform your ability to apply them for this coming week. So that's what I wanted to say about week 2. For week 3, you're really only designing 2 things, and one is pretty light in terms of what I'm expecting. So here are all your week 3 assignments. You're going to read some assignments. You have a discussion board, and your big design component this week is you're going to reformat, or if you don't have a resume, create a resume. You'll also need to, you're going to summarize one of the you're going to summarize this week's supplemental reading, the Denise 2017 article. So this assignment here is definitely going to be about content, but there's also a design component. So you'll need to do something to make your memo have a visual statement. That doesn't have to be an intense design, but you need to do something where you are intentionally practicing PARC principles in your memo design, and you cannot use a template. So that's going to be kind of your chance to embrace design without plagiarism. So do not use a template. You have to design your own kind of thing. So the biggest component in week 3 is this resume design. So I thought it would be fun to hear a story. The name of my story is Resumes Matter. And so here's kind of the quick rundown. One of my cousins graduated from college in the spring, and he has a degree in kind of sustainability, environmental engineering. So it's kind of an interesting niche in terms of engineering, and it's been difficult for him to find a job. So when I was chatting with my cousin at another cousin's wedding this summer, he was just asking for advice about getting out into the job market, and because my husband is an engineer, I also got them together, and they had a big phone discussion about getting into the job market. And in all of the engineering advice that my husband offered, I couldn't help but pipe in and ask him if he needed any help with creating a strong resume. And in that process, my cousin said sure, and emailed me his resume, which looked something like this. What you see here is what many of us would consider a traditional resume in terms of black and white, simple Times New Roman font, one-page content. And I'm going to come back to this in a second, but I want to finish the story first. So my cousin sent that to me, and I did a lot of content editing And then I made a big suggestion, which was that he also work on a stronger visual component of his resume, which he did, and his revised resume ended up looking closer to this. This is not his resume. This is something from online. But my cousin's resume did include some visual graphics, some repetition of color, different use of columns, and his ended up being front and back. So the conclusion of this story is that my cousin submitted his resume to a company that I know someone who works for that company, and they're hiring a lot of people right now. And so my friend at this company walked into the hiring manager's office and said, listen, I don't want you to hire this person as a favor, but as a favor to me, I just want you to at least make sure that you've looked at his resume. So no arm twisting in terms of the ethics of pushing for someone's hire. My cousin had to get the job on his own credentials, but my friend did go into the hiring manager's office to make sure that my cousin's resume got a thorough review. While in the hiring manager's office, my friend kept saying, my cousin's name over and over, and he was looking through the stack of, 30 resumes on his desk and pulled it out and said, "This is your cousin," and held up the resume. Not my friend, but okay. So not my friend's cousin, but this is the guy you're talking about. My friend said yes. Held up the resume and said, "This is the best resume I've seen in years." And as a result of the strength of my cousin's resume, he was already on the hiring manager's short list to have a phone follow-up conversation, kind of a pre-interview. And after speaking to my cousin and finding out how he's smart and all this and that, of course he got a job offer the next day and everything came through. And so the moral of my story is that resumes really do matter. And it just happened this week that my cousin had a pretty boring traditional resume, and through my peer pressuring and my experience in visual rhetoric, his resume went from this vibe and look to this vibe and look, and was, quote, one of the best resumes this hiring manager has seen in years. So I want for this to be kind of a motivator to you that your resume does not need to be so traditional in that it has to look drab. Your resume can use color. Your resume can repeat lines or graphics, just so long as you're not doing it too much. Please note that the color that is repeated are just the headings, that it's not the actual words, that you don't see a bunch of images here, and you certainly do not see someone's face. So that's kind of a misnomer in resume world these days. You do not need to have your image on your resume unless that's part of your job. So if you're an actor or actress or news reporter, TV news reporter, then your face would be a very meaningful part of your job. For people like you and me, having your face on your resume does not communicate professionalism. So definitely kind of move away from that direction if you're headed there. So some things I wanted to point out. This shows great use of repetition without being too much. There's good alignment throughout the resume, even the bullet points align, whereas here on this traditional resume, one of the issues is we see kind of what could potentially be a strong alignment, except for the bullet points don't connect, and then the year dates or just the year information on the left column really undermines the alignment on this more traditional resume. So of course for this one of the easy suggestions would be to move dates to below or above the cities on each of these lines, just to free up all this white space. For paragraphs like this where there's only one bullet point, just cut the bullet point. It should look like the professional summary section, the additional information section should. Another thing is to trim what you can, so the address could easily be one line of text here. and home and mobile phone numbers could be one line of text followed by a third line that's your email. So that would already strengthen just the heading section. So there's some subtle things that you can do to strengthen your resume, but I'm really looking for you to do more than small adjustments. Since we're in visual rhetoric instead of professional communication, I'm really looking for you to visually persuade in your design of your resume. So look around online. Do not plagiarize someone else's work, but look around online for inspiration of resumes and use some others' ideas as jumping off points for your own design. So I hope this video clarified and encouraged you to look over your week 2 design feedback, and I certainly hope that this video is encouraging you to take seriously your resume reformat, your resume redesign, because based on my cousin's story from this week, resumes really do matter. Please email me with any questions you have about feedback or your resume reformat. Looking forward to your work this week. Bye, guys.